Hello, my name is Vincent, and I'm one of the sharpeners at Korin Japanese Trading. Today, I'd like to talk to you guys about rough stones. So here, we have two examples of two different rough stones. And these are great if you have any chips in your knife, such as these right over here. These are very minor, but even if you have a significantly larger chip, you'll be able to use these stones to grind them out. First, we have right here the 220 grit rough stone, and this is a great stone if you have the larger chips. It is one of the coarsest stones that we do carry here, so it makes the fixing and grinding out these chips much easier. A few things to keep in mind about this 220 grit rough stone is that it's a relatively soft stone, so you want to make sure that you use a stone fixer on this quite frequently. Another thing is that you want to make sure before use you soak it in water for roughly 15 to 20 minutes or until the air bubbles stop. Another rough stone that we have here is the 300 grit diamond rough stone. And this is good if you have a slightly less extreme chip on your knife. It's not as coarse as the 220 grit, but there is an added advantage to the diamond rough stone, which is that it's always going to be flat. So there's no need for you to use a stone fixer on this, and it does put on a very good and even edge. This stone, unlike the 220, does not need to be soaked. So all you need to do is lightly coat it with water and make sure that you dry it when you're done and store it dry. So I'm going to go ahead and start to grind this chip out. And I'm going to use the 220 grit just because it's going to go a little bit faster. So when you're grinding out a chip, what you want to do is you want to concentrate on the points where the chip is. Another thing is you want to use a relatively steep angle. That's going to allow you to grind out the chips much quicker. So right now, I'm going to start on the back using a relatively steep angle. I'm going to place my finger right above where the chips are, and I'm just going to go back and forth on the stone. Now you may notice that I'm using a much shorter stroke on the rough stone. That's going to help you give you more control over your knife and reduce the chances of you scratching or slipping up. Now every now and then you want to make sure that you work the whole length of the knife as well. If you do not do this, your knife's going to start to warp and deform. So make sure every now and then you work the whole knife, but concentrate a little bit more on where the chips are. And you want to work on it from both sides. Now keep in mind that this process can take half an hour or even longer depending on how big your chip is and how hard you're pressing on the stone. But be patient and keep working the knife until all the chips are completely ground down. Once the chips are ground down, then you're going to go into a regular sharpening. Because you've used a much higher and steeper angle, you want to make sure that you go back to your 2 pennies and 3 pennies to put the proper bevel on your knife. So right now, I'm going to start on the back, and I'm going to place 3 pennies on the stone, right here. And that's going to give me the proper angle for the bevel. Once I do that, I'm going to use the rough stone again with the shorter strokes to grind out the extreme bevel that I put on when I was grinding out the chip. And for the front, we're going to use 2 pennies. Again, that's going to give me the proper angle. And I'm going to keep working and I'm going to make sure that I put on the proper bevel on each side. Once I get the proper bevel, then I'm going to repeat the process on my medium stone and fine stones, and that's going to repair your knife very, very nicely. If you were going to use the diamond stone, the process is exactly the same thing. Just keep in mind that in this case, you don't have to worry about constantly resurfacing your stone because it's going to be a guaranteed flat surface. So again, I'm going to grind out the chip first using a higher angle, concentrating on where the chip is. Then I'm going to go to find the proper angle and create the proper bevel. Now once I work on the knife and finish up on my medium stones and fine stones, you will see that I have fixed my knives and all the chips will be completely gone. Thank you for watching the Korin Knife Sharpening Show. I'd like to inform you that we'll be taking a short break in the month of May and we'll be resuming with upcoming episodes in June. So until next time, I look forward to seeing you again.